All right, let's break down one of those super common, kind of confusing moments we all have with our messaging apps. You know, that feeling where it seems like your phone just flat out ignored you?
So you've done it. That group chat was just blowing up your phone, right? It was way too noisy. So you did the logical thing. You found the mute button, you tapped it, you basically told your app, hey, be quiet.
But then, you open the app a little while later, and what do you see? There it is, right back at the top of your list, a new message just sitting there, staring you in the face. It really feels like the software didn't listen at all. So what is actually going on here?
Okay, so to get to the bottom of this, let's start with what we all think should happen. What's our gut feeling, our expectation for what that mute button is supposed to do?
See, in our minds, the logic is super simple. When we mute something, we don't just want silence. We want it to be, well, less there. We expect that whole conversation to just kind of fade into the background.
Yeah, we're expecting a total blackout, right? No more pings from your pocket, no banners sliding down from the top of the screen, and this is the big one, we definitely don't expect that chat to jump right back to the top of the list. We want it gone, at least until we go looking for it ourselves.
But then reality hits, and what happens next is where all the confusion really comes from. So someone in that chat you just muted, they send a new message, and on the system's end, it receives it just like any other message. So far, so good. Everything seems normal.
And here it is. This is the moment where our expectation just completely breaks. You open your app, and that muted chat with its brand new message has shot right back to the top of your list. It's behaving just like any other unmuted chat would.
And that's what makes you go, wait a second, I muted it. How is this possible? It feels like a bug, doesn't it? Or like the mute button is just broken. But the answer isn't a bug. It's actually because the software has a very, very different idea of what the word mute even means.
So, here's the key to understanding this. The reason this happens is because the software isn't doing one job. It's actually doing two totally separate jobs. Jobs that we've kind of mentally lumped together as one thing.
Okay, so the system basically splits its work into two buckets. On one hand, you've got notifications. Think of these as the interruptions that happen outside the app, the pings, the vibrations, the banners. Then, on the other hand, you have the chat list itself. That's the log of all your conversations inside the app. To the software, these are two completely different worlds.
And here's the real kicker. That mute button you pressed, it was only ever built to do one of those jobs. When you look at what mute is actually programmed to do, it's incredibly specific. Its one and only function is to stop notifications. That's it. It's just an on-off switch for those external alerts and nothing more. This means the mute button has zero instructions about your chat list. It literally has no power to tell the system to hide a chat or to stop it from moving up the list. How the chat is ordered inside the app is a completely different task that the mute button just wasn't designed for.
So let's trace the system's logic step by step. Okay, first, a new message arrives. The very first thing the system does is update the chat list. Its main job is to keep a perfect, chronological log. This happens automatically every single time. Then, and only then, does it check the mute status. If it's muted, great, it stops, no notification. If it's not muted, it sends you that ping. But notice, the chat list was already updated way back in the first step.
Okay, so you might be asking, why? Why on earth is it designed this way? It seems to create this obvious gap between what we expect and what the software does. Well, it all comes down to a classic engineering trade-off.
For the software itself, the benefit is huge. It's just dead simple. This design is incredibly clean and reliable. You have one button with one job. Turn interruptions on or off. There's no messy, complicated logic about reordering lists or hiding conversations. It's just a clean, simple rule.
But the cost of that beautiful machine simplicity? Well, it's our human intuition. The system isn't built to understand the feeling we have when we say mute. It just follows its very literal, very narrow definition, and that's what creates that frustrating gap that we all experience.
All right, let's bring this all home and finally clear up that initial misunderstanding once and for all.
So now we can finally answer that first question we asked. Why is that chat still sitting at the top of your list, even after you muted it? It's because, from the software's perspective, you only gave it one very specific instruction. Stop bothering me with sounds and banners from this conversation. What you didn't do was give it a second command, one that said, and also please hide this chat and stop it from moving to the top. That's a totally different feature, usually something called archive, and the mute button just has no control over it. And that really gets to the heart of the whole thing.
For us humans, mute is a big, broad idea. But for the system, it's a tiny, narrow command. Its definition is simple: stop the pings and banners. It is not hide this conversation.
So even though it feels completely wrong, and maybe even a little broken, the software's behavior is actually perfectly logical. It's totally consistent with its own rules. It wasn't ignoring you at all. It was just following a very different, much simpler set of instructions than the one you imagined in your head. And that explains why that muted chat keeps popping back up.